Good morning, everyone. Today I'm thinking about a little phrase that I heard and that I use myself, where it says it's important that we know who we are, but it's also important that we know whose we are. And I think I often focus on the who am I in God. It comes out of being prophetic, I guess, and the fact that prophetic ministry is very often talking to people about their identity. But today I want to focus on the second part, the whose am I? And I'm going to do it by just looking at a few verses from the book of Colossians. I've been studying some of the letters that Paul wrote when he was in prison, because I just thought, well, it's interesting to know how he wrote when he was in a place of isolation, a place of lockdown. What were the things that he wrote about? But Colossians is a beautiful letter. It's a letter to a new church, a newly formed church, to explain to them who Jesus is. And obviously, when we're thinking about whose am I, we're thinking about belonging to Jesus. So I'm reading from the Passion Translation. Chapter 1, verse 15. He is the divine portrait, the true likeness of the invisible God, and the firstborn heir of all creation. For through the Son everything was created, both in the heavenly realm and on the earth, all that is seen and all that is unseen, every seat of power, realm of government, principality and authority. It was all created through him and for his purpose. He existed before anything was made, and now everything finds completion in him. He is the head of his body, which is the church. And since he is the beginning and the firstborn heir in resurrection, he is the most exalted one, holding first place in everything. For God is satisfied to have all his fullness dwelling in Christ. And by the blood of his cross, everything in heaven and earth is brought back to himself, back to its original intent, restored to innocence again. Those verses make up a poem that Paul has written, which explains the work of God in Jesus, in the resurrected Christ, but also in the role of Jesus right from the beginning. He was there right at creation. He was forever. And I think when we just spend time and let those words wash over us, we get a sense of the greatness of who God is. We get a sense of the enormity of God as he created everything, but also has he now made his fullness known in Jesus. But more than that, if we carry on in this letter, we get to the very well-known passages that in other versions will talk about Christ in us, the hope of glory. And here in the Passion Translation, they say, there is a divine mystery, a secret surprise has been concealed from the world for generations, but now it's being revealed, unfolded and manifested for every holy believer to experience. Living within you is the Christ who floods you with the expectation of glory. The mystery of Christ embedded within us becomes a heavenly treasure chest of hope, filled with the riches of glory for his people, and God wants everyone to know it. So in these few verses, we have the picture of the God, the creator of all things, who made himself known, the invisible becoming visible in Jesus. Jesus, who lived and whose life we can read about in the Gospels, so we can know what he was like. We can know how he went about his life. Then dying, but being resurrected, so that the fullness of God can be made known through the church. And that's not just externally, but this God comes and lives within us, so that the glory of God is resident even now within us, so that we can make him known to the world. It's an amazing way of thinking about whose are we. We belong as believers to this God, this creative God, who is now recreating the world through us. We are the image of God to the world. So today, as you just take a few moments as you go about whatever your day holds for you, just remember, God who is for you is also in you. God who created the world is now recreating you so that you can recreate the world. God who made every power and principality and authority is the one in Jesus who has that authority because he laid down his life. And he gives that to us as the church so that we can take the authority of God into all the places that we go. He is making things new today. So whose are you? Who do you belong to?